G'day everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to do a 6-month ownership review of my Rolex Datejust 36 in the Jubilee fluted configuration and the coveted Wimbledon dial. So this was my first Rolex that I ever bought. And over the last 6 months I've had a good bit of time to actually collate my thoughts on this watch and give you my honest opinions, and without getting too philosophical and cheesy about things. The watch is good. It's a good watch. It's a great watch. It's an even better watch than great, actually. In terms of its specifics, it's quite standard procedure. It's a time and date only watch, Datejust. Bracelet is the typical Jubilee bracelet you'll find with Rolex. The fluted bezel adds that nice pop of light play, and the clasp itself is one of those basic beacon hook clasps with the traditional easy link adjustments with 5mm. Now, I went with the 36 because it's a more classic dressy look. You can go for the 41 if you want the more substantial and sporty look. I like either or, really. I feel like the 41 is pretty big for what it is. It's more of a dressy watch in its nature. So having it bigger, especially for your smaller wristed people out there, it might look as if that the watch is wearing you rather than you wearing the watch, whereas the 36 is more of that classical design. When you compare the Datejust to the Rolex professional models like your Submariners, the Submariners, they should be wearing more substantial because of the way it's designed and its features, having a bezel and whatnot. So Datejust to me, 36 is pretty much the classic. 41 is still cool as well, so take your pick. Now, the last 6 months have got me reflecting on my ownership experience, and in all honesty, this is probably one of the least worn watches that I wear on a daily basis. I've been trying to force myself to wear it a lot more nowadays, and it's nice. It's a nice, comfortable watch. It is really light on the wrist, and it's just a great fit because you have that Jubilee bracelet. There's a finer level of adjustment when it comes to finding the right fit. The Jubilee, I believe, is about 2.5mm worth of adjustment, whereas the Oyster bracelets, if you're adjusting the Oyster links, they're about 5mm, give or take, depending as well on the size of the watch, if you're 36 or 41. Now, my biggest issue with this watch is actually the embodiment of what's wrong with Rolex at the moment. So I got this watch retail. So long story short, I had a Datejust 41 Wimbledon dial on a Jubilee smooth bezel. And what I ended up doing was I traded that in straight swap for this 36. Now, 36 is considered nowadays unisex. More traditionally, it's the classical size, right? They didn't have the larger 41mm, but 36 is now unisex. It's going to be considered smaller for the men's standards nowadays. So most men opt in to go for the 41, and that's how I was able to get a straight swap. 36 to 41, people are going to buy that easier than the 36. 36 tend to sit in the used secondary gray market. But that's not my problem with it. My problem with this piece is the accessibility of it nowadays. Now, you can go to an AD, and it might take a year or two for you to get the call and actually purchase it retail. Depending on how good the ethics are for your AD, it shouldn't be a piece that you need to wait too long for. But the more coveted dials like your blues, greens, and Wimbledon, it's going to take a bit of time to actually get. That's not the issue though. The issue is in the secondary market, the prices and the value that you get for this watch makes me really think hard about recommending this watch, but as well as it gives me a conflict because I'm thinking to myself, all right, if I move it, no more Datejust. Like that's it. It's a done deal. I'm never going to get a Datejust again. Or if I keep it, this is it, right? This is the Datejust of the Datejusts. It's the be all and all. And the core root of this is just the crazy prices on the secondary market. So to give you an idea, this watch retails for about 15,100 Australian dollars. Back when I got it, we're talking about that 13K range, right? So 13 and a half, maybe touching that 14 range. And when you look into the secondary, depending on the model, so a like for like, this in the secondary, we're talking like 18, 19,000, man. So 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's an extra 3 grand or 4 grand on top. Not to mention, if you're going to get one privately, you have to obviously be careful and make sure that you pay the extra to get it authenticated. Typically with the dealers, it's going to have a bigger markup because they have overheads. But some of those markups, man, are becoming crazy. Like, without throwing shade, the place I got this from, they list them for $19,000. So that's $15,000 to $19,000. That's an additional 4 grand on top. And to tell you the truth, this isn't worth the additional 4 grand, man. It's just simply not. But it gets worse from here. When you look into the 41s are now going for about that 17K range. So 17 and a bit of change. They're listing for 22, 23. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's an additional 5 to 6 grand on top. And it's a great watch. It's a nice watch. If you can get it retail, like, yeah, you're sweet. Like, it's worth the retail price. It is definitely worth it. But for an additional 3 or 5 or 6 grand on top, man, it becomes quite ridiculous in a sense that it's just not a watch that I would recommend to anyone, really. Now, if you do get older examples, like your 2018, 2019, 2020, something like that, on like a more basic colorway, like your black, whites, whatever, you can get a good deal. And there are some good deals out there. I focus mainly on Jubilee fluted because when you start going to the other configurations, it gets a bit better. It gets a bit more affordable in a sense, but it's still not a great market for it. And with so many options out there, especially for that 15K range, look, you can get the Datejust and it's fantastic, it's beautiful. If you can get it retail, it's great, right? It's fine. If you go for the Santos, however, if we're comparing 36 to 36, that's pretty much 5 G's less. And then when you look into the two watches, Santos Medium, it doesn't have a date, but it doesn't matter. It's a great looking watch and you save yourself 5 grand. Like, Santos is actually better value for money than the Datejust. Now, if we move away from Cartier and stick with Rolex, you can get an Oyster Perpetual 36 for about 5 grand less, especially in the secondary market. They're not as popping, right? Like, you can easily get one for around that 10K range, around retail. And to top it all off, the Explorer 36, mate, you can get one of those for under 10 grand nowadays, so like 8 or 9 grand. With the modern design, with the easy link adjustments. So the additional 5 grand, look, I get it because it's the Jubilee fluted white gold experience. I get it. But an additional 10 grand on top, give or take, on the secondary used, if you can't get one of these, it's nuts, man. So currently in my position, I like the watch. It wears great. I save it mostly for dressier occasions or if I'm going out with the missus into a fancy place. I wear it to work occasionally as well. It's taken me to a few client meetings where I won, but they said nice Wimbledon. But I'm at a crossroads right now because if I get rid of it, that means no more Datejust. And if I hold it, it's just not going to get as much wear because it's just naturally more of a dressy piece. I like to wear my other pieces, like my GMT Master, my Yacht Master, my Submariner. I got 4 Rolexes in my collection. But I've been really digging the other brands. I've been digging my Omega, my Longines, my Tudors. I actually been wearing the Tudor and Longines a lot more than my Rolexes because it's just nice to not worry about it, right? So in my grand scheme of things, I'm planning to actually either move this on in the future, not now, in the later future for a day date. So the day date is actually what I'm looking for at the moment. I'm trying to find a good example for about that 50, 60 grand range Aussie. And then I'll move this on and try and get that. But again, the prices for these day dates have increased dramatically in the last 2 years. I remember a time when you can get one for about 40 to 50, a modern day date. And nowadays they're going for about that 60, 70 range or high 50s. So yeah, it's not a small amount of money. Or the other thing I was thinking was to move this on and just use the money to focus on some investments. I've actually had a few opportunities to get some plots basically car spaces, right? So I had the opportunity to buy a few car spaces that I could potentially rent out, and that's just revenue generating asset over a watch that I don't really wear much, right? And that, yes, it does have a sentimental value, but then again, I moved on my very first luxury watch, which was the Omega Speedmaster, right? Watches to me is a hobby. Yes, they do hold sentimental value, but at the end of the day, they're there for you to enjoy, move on. They're liquid as well in terms of figuring out what you want to do, if you want to get more investments, pay off some bills and debts and whatnot, or put it towards the mortgage, whatever. So there you have it. Datejust 36 in this 6 months experience. Just to summarize my thoughts, I got it. I've enjoyed it. I'm wearing it. I'm going to keep it for now until I can pretty much upgrade my life, right? Either with a day date or with some investment properties, whatever. For you watching at home, I would highly advise that you do some research, give it a try, wear it, and see if it's something that you truly want, because I do not recommend going to the gray market for this. If you can buy it on a good deal, so I found one of these actually like-for-like configuration for about $15,888. So an additional $888 on top, fantastic, get it. I think it was a 2021, 2022 model. It was a private sale, however, so again, pay for the authentication, and it's about 250 Aussie dollars. But at 16 grand, an additional $900 on top of retail, that's a good deal. Just be careful because, yeah, man, like it's getting rough out there for the rolly market, and I don't like where the direction is heading. However, the caveat to this is if you want the best value for money when it comes to picking up your Datejust, go for the two-tone options. So two-tones retail for about that $25,000 for a 41 and a $23,000 for the 36. They're easily under retail. Like this, I found 5 examples of 23K retail. I found 5 examples for going for like 21, 22 grand. So if you can stretch your budget and get a two-tone, I actually recommend you go down that route. Otherwise, wait for the call. Don't go for the inflated bullshit pricing at the moment. But that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Datejust. Catch you later.